Ah, is this sweet? I can't tell.
I'm doing the new Slipknot album because it's streaming now. You can find it on the band's Facebook page. You know, this is what, their 5th album, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this album's called, well, I should have figured that because the album's called, well, 5, The Gray Chapter. You know, assuming after Paul Gray, I would immediately assume. So, yeah, we listened to it and we're going to talk about it. So,
It's follow-up to All Hope Is Gone, his first album, 6 years?
they went on another little hiatus that they like to go on. So,
well, and also, Joey Jordison's not on this record. Most people probably don't know this. Joey Jordison's not on this record, and yeah, they got new bassist. Nobody knows who they are. Well, the bassist they know. I forget his name.
Alessandro.
But the drummer, I'm not sure of.
The drummer, they've said that even if there is without a shadow of a doubt, it's him, they're still going to deny it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if it's like...
I wonder if you buy the CD, like if you go through and will say who's in the band.
He'll probably say whatever his number is. Because since they all have numbers, they'll probably give him his number, and that's it.
Yeah, anyways.
Well,
What do you think, Hoss?
I lost at football today, and I got my butt kicked at Mario Kart, so I'm thinking, like, Slipknot, alright, you gotta save me here, I'm on a losing streak. And it didn't quite save me. It was a decent album. I like Slipknot a lot. Not to be like one of those people or whatever, but my favorite album from them is their first album. I like that crazy, wild stuff. I like their music in general, but if I had to pick a favorite, I would go back to like the crazy, wild, you know, like Sick or Surfacing. But I like their older stuff, and it seems like at some points in this album, I don't know what they're trying to do. But if I had to like make a guess of what they're trying to do, it's either one of two things. It's either they're staying the band who they're going forward as the band that they are, and saying like, oh, we can maybe throw in some older stuff like Custer maybe with the whatever the hell it is. It sounds like a chicken or a rooster to me, and just that, you know, jumpy. I think someone said it was like a jumpy part at the end. Where, what is it, Keith? Fuck me up? Or whatever.
Cut me up and fuck me up.
It sounded like maybe sort of a throwback. It's like they're still going in that direction, maybe like throwing in some bits and pieces of old stuff. Or they're trying to throw in old stuff, but they just can't. Like either way, the old stuff just doesn't feel like old stuff. It just feels like, you know, a band going in a direction, trying to replicate some old stuff, but it's just not quite there. It doesn't have the same feeling. And I think Tyler and I sort of talking about it a little bit, and I think the thing that's very noticeable in this album, it's definitely not like their first album. It's I don't know. It's more so than All Hope Is Gone produced. You know, it's clear sounding. The guitars are clear sounding. There's no, like, I don't know, not feedback or whatever, but just like this gritty sound that makes Slipknot like, you know, a weird band that you might see in like a, you know, some club or whatever, and they freak you out because they're 9 guys with a bunch of masks and stuff. It just sounds like a, you know, playing Mayhem Festival, big stage band now. And it I mean, the production has a little bit to do with that. And I always love the sound of the drums. Something about the drum sound, people say they use, what is it, triggers or whatever. But something about the drum sound, it always kind of has sounded kind of raw. And I'm glad they carry that over and not going like something kind of new. It sort of sounds like Joey. The drumming style is good too, but the actual sound of the drums, it sounds like an actual drum kit in ways. Sometimes, the double bass, it's you know, bass drums a little too loud, I guess, for my liking. That's just my liking. But the drums sort of still have that Slipknot sound to them, and that's one of the things that I don't think it's overlooked, because a lot of people always talk about Joey Jordan, the best drummer in the world or whatever. It's not like it's too overlooked, but it's something that you can appreciate, that they kept that sort of drumming sound and style. Everything else is kind of what bothers me. Instrumentally. The guitars are a little too quiet compared to the drums and compared to Corey's vocals. It's sort of like they take a backseat to the drums and the vocals. The bass just sometimes isn't there, like, at all. It's not, like, clear that it's there. It sounds sort of flat, almost like there's not enough bass. I feel like they're trying to do that to maybe honor Paul Gray, like, you know, turn the bass down because he's not there or whatever. It gives the album a weird sound or whatever, and it sometimes sounds a little very flat. Like Tyler and I were also saying, there are 9 guys in the band, and sometimes it feels like a 5-piece band. There's some parts with like some DJing and, you know, whatever they do, and then you know, I don't really hear anyone hitting like metal cans and stuff. Not that you could like always point out every little thing, like the average Slipknot listener could point out every little, like, oh, he hit the trash can there, and they, you know, they blew this up at that part or whatever. But like for the average listener, I'm like, well, I don't really hear all this stuff. It doesn't sound like 9 guys are in this band. It sounds like a 5-piece band that's just kind of, you know, there. You know, what they're playing is good. You know, I like a lot of the riffs. Some of the riffs are very All Hope Is Gone, and, you know, Volume 3, and they have some pretty good riffs, and the drumming is great. It's just like, not the sound of it actually, it's the layering and everything. That's what gets me a little bit. And probably, I guess the last thing I'll talk about the album is the vocals. Corey Taylor, he's still a good singer. It's just something is a little bit different. I'm not gonna, well, I could say like, oh yeah, he sounds like Stone Sour now. But I feel like if you want to dive deeper than that and try to figure out what exactly it is, there's a lot of like, it's not like Dead Memories over and over on this album that it sounds exactly like that song, but of the same way. And sometimes there's a lot of singing and like sing-songy stuff, where the way older albums had like, you know, weird rap, you know, singing sometimes. Even Wait and Bleed was sort of like, you know, low and hushed a little bit, and it's a lot of their Corey's like singing parts or sound kind of sing-songy. You know, I'm not gonna say like, oh, radio friendly maybe, but it's more towards this catchy side, where Slipknot has always been, to me, kind of like a, I don't fucking care, you know, we'll kind of rap and kind of do this and do that, and I'm not saying they're trying to please people, it's just, they're going that direction in which you could say it feels like they're trying to please people. I doubt they are, it's just, you know, I would want some of that more like, we're gonna be way outside of the box, and they're just getting closer to the box, in my opinion. Sort of in the box in some places, but other parts he sounds pretty decent. I mean, he doesn't sound as you know, rough as he used to. He's cleaned up. He's become a pretty good singer. So you kind of miss that old Corey Taylor, but you're appreciative of the new good singer that he is. And that's kind of my impression of the band, the music itself. That's about it, I guess I could sum it up, and that's how I feel about the album. Well, I guess how I feel about the album, it's new Slipknot, and as much as I would like some older Slipknot in it, you have to like accept that, yeah, they've grown. Corey Taylor's become a better singer, and that's pretty cool, but you lose some older things. And as they become a bigger band and stuff like that, I'm not taking shots at them, but bands get bigger, they become more produced and things. They work in studios and they're big, rich rock band guys, and they don't want to go back to like recording in a garage. So there's some give and take with it, and there's a tiny bit more take just because I like older Slipknot, but there's some good give on this album. They do give you a pretty solid album, I would say, and that's my overall impression.
Yeah, this is, in a lot of ways, like, musically and the songwriting wise, this is not a bad album. This is, kind of, you know, again, I agree with Sam, I think this is Slipknot trying to be everything that they have been and that they once were, all in one album. So, you know, Corey Taylor, somebody in the band, described the album, I believe it was Corey Taylor, described it as, you know, Iowa meets Volume 3, which, you know, Volume 3 was kind of, you know, where they started to kind of drift a little bit more towards a little bit more radio friendly, whereas Iowa is one of the angriest records I've ever heard. And so, there's a lot of stuff that kind of sounds like All Hope Is Gone on here, and there's a couple ballady things. I believe the songs Goodbye and Nomadic were both really soft and more, again, as Sam described it, singy, which I just felt was interesting. And it's also kind of funny that earlier this week I'd seen in a statement by, you know, Corey Taylor that he's like, I don't think that our fans really should compare Stone Sour to Slipknot. Like, when I get heavy and, you know, but it sounds a lot like Stone Sour. It's almost something I'd hear exactly. It almost doesn't sound like Slipknot. And I understand it's wanting to expand with Slipknot their musical horizons, you know. Every band should be allowed to do that, you know. I'm fine, but it's like, I don't know, it's, you know, because it sounds so much like Stone Sour, it's like, oh, why don't you just use that there? You know, guitar-wise, I think there's a lot of cool Slipknot riffs on stuff. I mean, when me and Tyler did the Negative one, you know, that's an example of that. And Custer has one of those more older Slipknot riffs, and then it even gets kind of thrashy on like the second and third tracks, Sarcastic and like AOV, which are two really good tracks on the album, I think. Like, the riffage-wise and songwriting-wise, it's very good, you know. As Sam said, drum-wise, if somebody didn't tell you that Joey Jordison wasn't on the album, you might not notice, and I think it's probably because of kind of like what happened with when Paul Bostaph first joined Slayer. You know, he went on record saying, people listen to Slayer, they want to hear how Dave Lombardo played. So he learned how to play like that, and that's how his style, when he plays with Slayer, kind of came about. And so I think that's kind of a similar thing. He's like, Slipknot has a certain drum style, so I'm not really going to broaden it too much. I'm going to kind of stick to what people want to hear, which, I mean, is not necessarily a bad thing. Like I said, Slipknot kind of has always had a certain kind of way they go about the drums, I mean, just the actual drums, not the added percussion. But then, the biggest problem that this album has, I think, is the production. And it's that, yes, it's very overly produced, but more so, it just sounds empty. Like, there's just nothing behind the guitars. The guitars are just kind of there. There's not the grittiness and the muddiness. Like, you know, All Hope Is Gone is, of course, probably their commercial, their mainstream album, but that album is still, like, the guitar tone is still very, just, it still hits really hard, you know, and it's not there here, you know. A lot of times, you know, sometimes the only things that saves part of the guitars is the riff. It's like, oh, that's a cool riff, but then otherwise, you might not maybe notice necessarily what's going on guitar-wise. Again, the bass, you really can't hear it, and again, I think when me and Tyler were talking about some of the songs before we listened to this, it was kind of like how Injustice for All is, you know, maybe, again, similar situation, you know, they just lost the bassist, maybe it's kind of like a thing, the bass just gets turned down, which I think just makes it suffer musically, you know, again, it just doesn't sound right. Songwriting-wise, it's fine, this is a good Slipknot album, with them trying to do all kinds of stuff, but production-wise, I don't know. And then vocally, I mean, a lot of people or complaining about Corey Taylor's vocals. And I mean, I don't see what's wrong. Again, yeah, I think he's gotten better as a vocalist. The only thing I think is maybe he can't get as low when he does like his screams. Or maybe he, for whatever reason, I feel like it's not saying it's not there, but at least a lot more often on this album, it's a lot more of the like a higher pitch, like on like the negative one, like it's a much more higher pitched scream. But like I don't see that as necessarily a bad thing. I mean, your voice goes after a while. Singing like that is not easy. Even if you learn how to do it properly, it's still probably not the best thing for you. So I mean, he still sounds really good. Corey Taylor is still an amazing vocalist. So like it's just a couple of songs where it sounds very, very Stone Sour, and then the production that really brings this album down. Otherwise, I mean, this is a good album. So yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a solid album to me, and I mean I pretty much agree with what these guys say. The songwriting is pretty top notch. I feel it's definitely a lot more, for the most part, interesting to me than All Hope Is Gone. Where there's some good songs on that album, but it kind of loses me a little bit. And here it kind of really holds my attention the whole way through, besides a couple songs here and there. The problem is it lies in the production to me. It really does. And we reviewed the new Whitechapel record, and it just sounded so fake. And this album kind of does too. It's just the guitars. They just don't... I'm going to take what Sam said and take it a little further. This sounds like a 3-person band to me. It sounds like there's one guitar playing through a fucking 30-watt amp, and there's a drummer, and there's the vocalist, and that's it. The bass is not there. There's no ass end to anything here. And it's so obvious that, when they're playing really fast, really thrashy, like, it's just... there is nothing there, and that's not cool, and it really, really fucking bothers me. And I listen to And Justice for All, and yeah, there's no bass on that album practically, but the guitar tones are really fucking crunchy, they're heavy, they got a lot of ass end to them. This doesn't to me. It sounds like they're playing on their fucking little fucking rhythm thingy on their guitar, the rhythm pickup, that's what I'm trying to say. It just sounds flat, it just doesn't, it's not there. And I'm not knocking Mick Thompson or Jim Root, I'm not saying that they're bad guitar players. I know a lot of people probably think that's what we're trying to say. That's not true. A lot of the riffs on here are really fucking good. They're really catchy. I take the negative one. AOV has some slamming fucking riffs on it. The chorus riff of Devil and I will just get stuck in your head forever. So there's a lot of really solid guitar playing on here. It's just the sound of production of this entire album kind of blows. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. It's just too overproduced. It's too... I'm a big band, and I can go to the best studio, and I can get the best producer, and, do all this. And if they really took out the bass because of Paul Gray, I mean, yeah, it sucks. He passed away. But to me, you shouldn't compromise like that. It's not a right thing to do, and it's just not a good decision to me. It's like paying for on-disc DLC in Destiny. It's just... you're gutting something that should be there, to me. Corey Taylor does sound pretty good on here, and he has definitely improved as a vocalist since the last Slipknot album. And, his screams, they're not like they are on their debut or on Iowa or something. But, I mean, you kind of live with it after a while. Sometimes he just doesn't sound the best, but... most of the time, I'd say he does sound pretty good. In the lyrics, though, they're definitely very Slipknot lyrics of, fuck the world type stuff. very angry music, and that's cool, you know? That's the thing, is that sometimes this album wants to be older Slipknot with a new coat of paint, but at times it just wants to be this, like, radio rock album sometimes, and to me they just gotta pick one and go with it, you know? And it kind of, I knew this album was going to have kind of an identity crisis, and I could tell that from the multiple songs that they put out, and, you know, it kind of does. It's not the biggest issue in the world, but, you know, it just doesn't know what it wants to be. Some of the songs that are more radio-friendly just don't grab me as much as the more aggressive ones do, but, I mean, what you gonna do? And the thing, too, is I do really like the drumming. The drums are such a staple of Slipknot's sound, and they do sound superb on here. And there's some really good, like, blast beats going on in this. Something that, you know, it's just a straight up blast beat that really hasn't been in past Slipknot music. But yeah, I do think this is a good album. It's just if the production was there, this would be fucking killer. And the production just isn't there to me. Other than that, I mean, I do like a lot of the songs on here. They are very good. I don't have a problem with Slipknot being softer at times. It's just sometimes the way that they do it. I don't mind them experimenting and doing, you know, new things. It's just the way that they do it sometimes just isn't the right way to go about it, I guess. But yeah. Balls. I thought I had one more thing to say, but I don't really know. I don't know. Some of the riffs can really get you going.
Yeah.
Just get your fucking head banging. Slipknot has a new album now.
Yes, I mean,
It doesn't happen very often anymore.
Yeah, it's like every 6 years.
Yeah, I feel Corey Taylor though. He kind of reminds me of James Hetfield in that people want new James Hetfield to sound like he did on, like, And Justice for All or Master of Puppets, and, you know, because that's James Hetfield, that's his sound. But he's just not going to sound like that. He's moved on as a vocalist. He's older. He does different things now, and same applies with Corey Taylor. You know, he isn't going to sound like that pissed off younger guy. You know.
Yeah.
It's just the way I think about it. Nice thoughts.
Nah, about covers it, I think. Everybody's hit everything.
I wish their softer songs had a little bit more to them. Like, in terms of, like, Snuff, or probably mispronounced. I've never learned how to pronounce a song of All Hope Is Gone. Gehenna? I feel like you don't pronounce it like G. I feel like it's J. But it's the 8th track of All Hope Is Gone, where it's not, like, super, like, but it's, like, spooky. I mean, I guess that's kind of how you should sort of say it, or, like, Vermilion, and, like, you know, it's, you know, it has, like, some, like, deep darkness to it, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, Snuff is kind of one of my favorite Slipknot songs to me. I love that song. So, like, I do like them doing softer stuff. It's just sometimes the way they do it on here isn't the best. But I will say the intro to this album is fucking awesome. The intro is very atmospheric and very,
19?
very cool.
Yeah, it's called 19.
Yeah, I do.
This album is terrible, but the intro. Buy it for
But you know what? The intro, like, the best minute of my life I ever spent. The rest of it.
I'm not buying this album if it doesn't come with a poster.
Yeah. Or an intro. No intro, no poster, no album.
Scores?
You have to come back to me. Right now, I'll give it like a Corey Taylor out of a Mick Thompson. But I'll have to think about it real quick. You guys can go.
I'll give it a 7.75 out of 10. This album would honestly be a lot higher up. Like, it's still a good album. It's just the production brings it down. So 7.75.
8 out of 10 for me. If the production was there and it wasn't like a fucking donut, it'd be a 9.
Eh.
Just saying.
I'll probably give it like a 7.5 out of 10. Like, I'll get this album eventually. I'm sure there'll be some jams on it. There'll be some songs that I just don't really care that much about. In that's what happened with All Hope Is Gone. All Hope Is Gone was a pretty good album, pretty underrated, and has a lot of criticism because it's not like old Slipknot or whatever. It's a pretty good album on its own, you know. But there are some songs like Butcher's Hook that just lost me. I never listened to it, but I'm sure there's some jams on this album. It's not as jammy, I would say, and to me, as All Hope Is Gone is like an 8. It's probably like a 7.5.
Yeah. Balls. Balls. Steel. Yeah. Bye.